From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Monday. It is the 15th day of May, 2017, as we get set to go here. You're what, 11:30 on the East Coast. We'll be taking you right up until midnight or right around there. As we have a lot to get to over the course of this past weekend. But right now, if you're not in tune with what's going on out in Arizona right now, you have the Mets playing the Diamondbacks. Rene Rivera with a home run in the second inning still stands as the Mets' only hit of the ball game. And just before we got on air, Jacob Lamb hit a home run for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's now 1-1 going into the top of the seventh inning out in Arizona. Zach Godley still in the game for Arizona, going through now at 91 pitches through 6 innings. Zach Wheeler, on the other hand, is at 103, so he's more likely than not done after six. With a lot of Met news to get to, as the Mets have completely and utterly started to give this season away, and it is only May. You're halfway through the month of May, and already you have absolutely no hope that the Mets will even be sniffing a wild card spot this year, let alone the division. What happened this weekend in Milwaukee, from a Met fan's standpoint, is unforgivable. When you have a 7-1 lead against the Brewers with Jacob deGrom on the mound. Now, the Brewers are not one of the better teams in the National League, on paper at least, sitting at 21-17 at the moment. They're playing and trailing San Diego right now in the fifth inning, 3-2. But if you look at the Met, if you look at Milwaukee, they are not one of the better teams in baseball. Half the team you couldn't even, I couldn't tell you half the team. And this team put the Mets down this past weekend. And somehow, by the grace of God, this division is so bad that it's 7.5 games out, 4 games under 500. The Mets are still sitting in second place in the NL East. Granted, there have been a lot of injuries on this team this year, but there were a lot of injuries on the team last year. And in the last week, the Mets were still in it with a shot to win the division. Now you're playing an Arizona Diamondbacks team who has been outperforming itself, 21-18 right now. So pretty much the same team as Milwaukee. You have one hit. Yes, one hit through 7 innings. Well, through 6 innings now? 6 2/3? Zach Wheeler came up to bat, so with 103 pitches, they're going to send Zach Wheeler back out there for the seventh inning. I'm assuming the first hit he's done. One hit through 7 innings against the Diamondbacks. You kidding me? This is a team that was supposed to be the runaway favorites in the NL this year, in the National League East at least. They were supposed to be on a collision course with the Chicago Cubs in the NLCS again. Meanwhile, Chicago is sitting a game under 500 at 18-19. And listen, I understand that the Mets have had injury problems. I understand the Mets have had an exorbitant amount of injury problems, all in the first month. Matz and Lugo didn't even start the year. Matz pitched an extended spring training game. Well, both of them pitched an extended spring training game on Saturday. Both of them will pitch in high single A St. Lucie on Thursday as they begin their rehab assignments. Cespedes right now is a week away. He's beginning a running program. Could return to the team by this time next week. Cabrera might be going to the DL with a torn ligament in his thumb. The Mets have already made it clear that Amed Rosario is not going to replace him on the roster, which, fine, I get that. You don't want to bring him up too early. I assumed he was going to be a September call up. And honestly, I understand that TJ Rivera won the Pacific Coast League batting title last year. But you're gonna bring up. But if you had any intention on bringing up Amed Rosario before September, you would have brought him up before Ty Kelly or TJ Rivera rather. He could be your everyday shortstop. Instead, you have Rivera playing first and third. If the Mets had any interest in bringing up Amed Rosario before September, they would have brought him up already. He would have been one of, if not the first guys they would have called up. And with how many injury problems the Mets have had, he would have been up already. Then you have the Mets now considering skipping Gazelman's start. He's scheduled to pitch Friday, but because of his outing on Saturday, the Mets might throw him in the bullpen in the middle of the week and push his start against the Angels back. Gazelman's pitching wonderful this year, isn't he? He's batting 2-3 with an ERA over 7. Yeah, there you go. It's quality. And it's not like you can send him down because who are they going to bring up? All of a sudden, all of this pitching depth that the Mets had, they don't have it anymore. We've gone over this. All of this depth that the Mets reportedly had is now hurt. That and you have DeGrom getting annoyed at himself. And honestly, I don't even think it's DeGrom getting annoyed at himself because of what he's doing. It's been a trend with Met pitchers this year. You see them up at 80 pitches in the fourth inning. And that's not just DeGrom. Syndergaard was doing it. Harvey's been doing it. Wheeler, for some reason, is going to pitch the seventh inning at 103 pitches already. Gazelman's had starts where he's been up in the 80s in the fourth inning. This has been going through the Mets rotation. It's not just DeGrom. So I can understand he's frustrated at himself, but he's got to look at the rest of the team. They're doing exactly what he's doing. A lot of pitches. I'm not saying that makes it any better, but when you're throwing a lot of pitches, he's striking a lot of guys out too. He's getting a lot of foul balls though. And that is what really drives your pitch count up. So moving away from the disaster which has been the New York Mets this season, really not even a disaster. I'd say more of a disappointment than anything. Bottom of the seventh inning just began. It is 1-1 Zach Wheeler going up against Jeff Mathis. He's got 8, 9, and 1 this inning. So it'll be Mathis, the pitcher spot, which will be filled up by a DH, and Ray Fuentes, the center fielder this evening for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now moving to the Yankees, who last night, who this weekend really suffered a setback, albeit a minor setback, but a setback nonetheless, as they dropped 3 out of 4 against the Houston Astros, who are undoubtedly the best team in baseball this year, including last night's game, in a game where it looked like they were going to do it again. While I am a Met fan, there's no denying that the Yankees have been the more entertaining team to watch this year. No deficit appears to be insurmountable by this team. The Yankees somehow, some way, always seem to find a way to make it interesting, to make it close, even when they've given up 9 runs and scored 1, like they did against Baltimore, to come back and win. They have made it interesting every step of the way this year. They have been a heck of a lot more entertaining than the Mets have been. And even as a Met fan, I am not afraid to admit that. I've had more fun watching Yankee games this year than I have Met games. Partially because I'm a Met fan and I know how Met games go. They'll tease you all throughout the game, and then at the end they fall flat on their faces, which is what they've been doing this year. Continues to be the bullpen. And just as I thought, Jeff Mathis singles to lead off the bottom of the 7th, and now Jerry Blevins comes in to face David Peralta. So lefty-lefty matchup. As I said, Wheeler gives up 1 hit. He's done. He ends the night right now at least sitting at 6+ innings, 7 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. So that's what you're looking at least for right now with Zach Wheeler. He is on the hook for Jeff Mathis if he does come around to score. But this weekend, the Yankees ran into a little bit of a snag with the Houston Astros, who are every bit as good as they are billed to be. Their pitching has been great. Their hitting has been great. They don't make many mistakes. They are a very, very good team. But this weekend was not about the Yankees playing the Houston Astros. Far from it. This weekend was about Derek Jeter. As a Met fan, you despise the guy. The only thing worse than hearing, oh, the Yankees are so great, oh, the Yankees are doing this, oh, the Yankees are doing that, oh, Derek Jeter's doing this, oh, Jeter's so great, he's the best shortstop to ever play the game. Oh, give it a break, you're making me sick. However, the baseball fan in me respects that man unconditionally. If your kid has to pick one person, one athlete to be a role model, Derek Jeter would be the guy. A guy who did it right on the field, a guy who did it right off the field, a guy who showed up every single day, played his heart out every single day, went home, went to the ballpark and did it again the next day, went home, went to the ballpark again and did it again. A guy who didn't need to take days off, a guy who never asked for charity, a guy that never did less than what he was supposed to do. As gracious and as humble as they come. With the retiring of his number last night and his monument being put and his head being put up in Monument Park, that now signals, what is it, the 23rd or 24th number retired by the Yankees. Besides for zero, they have no single digit numbers left, which is why you see a guy like Ronald Torreyes wearing number 72, or a guy like Aaron Judge wearing 99. These are all standard everyday numbers. You can point to a lot of moments throughout Derek Jeter's career that will last forever. The Mr. November home run, the Jeffrey Mayer home run, diving into the seats to make a catch. I always thought that was a little overdone, to be perfectly honest. I thought he could have at least turned and rolled head over heels over the guardrail. He didn't have to go flying into the fourth row. But honestly, I think the play that will stick forever in my mind, at least, is the flip. That will go down as the greatest improvised play in the history of baseball. There is no reason for a ball that is hit to right field and that is getting thrown in by the right fielder. There is no reason for the shortstop to be over there for any reason. I don't care if he's going to the bathroom. He should not be over there. That play was a play made by a competitor that was willing to do what he had to do to win, even if it was completely off the cuff, completely unconventional, completely improvised. It just goes to show what a great player he was on the field and how knowledgeable he was. One of the more deserving players to be honored by the Yankees in recent memory. Definitely one of the most, definitely the most deserving in the last 5 years. I'm assuming Rivera's time is next. But you had the win in the beginning of the day, and then you go down immediately 6-0. Tanaka looked just as bad as he looked on opening day, giving up 6 runs in the first inning, out after 1 2/3. And then somehow, some way, The Yankees, come the end of the game, find a way to make it close, find a way to make it entertaining. I'm sitting there writing an essay for school, and I'm listening to the game behind. I'm like, God, they're coming back. Are they real? They're not going to do it again. The bad break that the Yankees caught last night, even though he's batting 317, the only bad break the Yankees caught last night in that ninth inning was that Aaron Hicks was the guy that came up with as the tying run. And again, I understand he's hitting 317, but Aaron Hicks is not one of those guys I would think, yeah, let's put Aaron Hicks up in that spot. Yeesh. It was the only tough break that the Yankees caught in that. Now, we switch gears and we go down to the NBA. And the NBA has been interesting over these last couple of weeks. Between the playoff games, which we'll get to, but more specifically, what's happening tomorrow night, which is the draft lottery. We've said it all year long that the Brooklyn Nets did their absolute best to give the Boston Celtics the best pick they could possibly get, which, lucky for them, is the number one pick. Now, the Celtics have a 25% chance of getting the number one pick and a 64.3% chance of getting the top three, getting a pick in the top three. If there is any justice in the NBA whatsoever, Phoenix goes one, the Lakers go two, the Celtics go three. The Celtics do not need the number one overall pick. They are making it to the Eastern Conference Final. I understand they made the trade. I understand that where they pick relied solely on the Brooklyn Nets. But let's be honest here. A pick in the top three is way more than what they deserve or what they would have gotten. You're talking about a pick beyond 25 at this point. The team won the Eastern Conference, for God's sake. Now you're going to sit there and award them with the number one overall pick? If there is any justice in the NBA, it is Phoenix 1, Lakers 2, Celtics 3. The Knicks are in a funny situation, picking number 7. They can move up. They really do not have a chance of moving down. When you look at the percentages, the Knicks and Timberwolves both have a 5.3% chance of winning the number one pick, and both have an 18.3% chance of getting into the top 5. You look at the Sacramento Kings, who are the 8th worst team in the league. They have a 2.8% chance of getting number one and a 9.9% chance of winning a top 3, of earning a top 3 spot in the draft. So the Knicks are, their basement is 7. They could go 6. They could go 5. I don't see them going past 4. I don't see them going past, I think 5 is the highest they could possibly get. I don't see them outlucking the 76ers. My guess for the Knicks would be you're looking at a pick between 5 and 7. Looking at the numbers, looking at the percentages, that is my pick. The basement is 7, the ceiling is 5. I know it's not a big window, but at least you have a pick. Because in this year's draft, you now find yourself in the extraordinary position of seeing an Eastern Conference final representative, the number one team in the East, with the possible number one pick in the draft. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce are paying dividends off for the Celtics way after they left. They are still making those two work. So again, that would be my guess. Phoenix 1, Lakers 2, Celtics 3. My guess is Levante Ball goes number 2. Everyone says he's not the best pick in the draft. The Lakers are really interested in him. If the Lakers go 1 and they take Ball, they know they're not getting the best player possible. And if they end up picking number 3, it's going to be meaningless because Phoenix is going to take him. Phoenix is in that spot as well. If they get number 1, I know they want Ball, but you got to pick the best player in the draft. That's why you have the number 1 spot. The Boston Celtics do not need that number 1 player. They can very well take the third best player in the draft. I'm sure they'll accept it. So that's what you're looking at for tomorrow night. But getting through this weekend, we'll go through them in order. And I have to look at the recap here because NBA.com does such a great job of putting the box score up to a point where it doesn't have to where it doesn't take a Chinese New Year for it to load. So I'm looking at the recap. So I don't have exact numbers in front of me where I can read them easily. We'll start with the Western Conference semi against between San Antonio and Houston. After Harden was elbowed in Game 5, he was out of it. Harden scores 5 points in Game 6 and doesn't take a shot for the first 18 minutes of that game. Harden is the star of your team. He is the go-to guy. He is the number 1 guy on that team. You mean to tell me that Harden got stage fright to such an extreme that he was essentially incapacitated for the game? You go back to that image of D'Antoni and Harden sitting on the bench. D'Antoni has given up because at this point I think they were losing by 30. And James Harden is sitting next to him. Harden looks like he doesn't even know where he is. He had to have suffered a concussion in that elbow in Game 5. There's no other explanation. He had to have gotten a concussion in Game 5. I've had 3 concussions in my life. 2 of them are because I was stupid. My first one was playing baseball. I think I got hit in the back of the head on a backswing. I was a catcher. Kid comes around, hits me in the back of the helmet. I think that was the first one. The second one, we were playing catch on the line. I was looking at a game in the field behind us. I didn't turn my head back in time. I got a ball to the head. My fault. The third time, I was playing football with my cousin on concrete in flip-flops. My fault. I specifically remember the last 2. It was hard for me to sit there and concentrate when I was sitting there watching television that is putting no stress on my brain, that is putting no stress on my body physically, I'm watching TV. I am not working. And I couldn't even do that. James Harden is in a situation where he is possibly concussed. Now he has to play a very intense playoff game 6 elimination game. And you expect him to pay attention? You expect him to be there? You expect him to be with it? On Harden's worst nights, he'll at least stumble into 10 points. He had 5. 5 points. Didn't take a shot for nearly the first half. Yeah, Harden just had a bad night. He did not just have a bad night. There is something wrong with that man. I have never seen a star at the beginning of his career, the prime or the tail end, have that bad of a game. There is no way stage fright hit Harden that badly. He had to have been concussed. He had to have been hurt. Again, that picture with him and D'Antoni, he didn't even look like he knew where he was, let alone what he was doing. There is no way Harden was there mentally. Not because he wanted to be, but because he couldn't. Then you get to last night's game with the Warriors and the Spurs. And the play that everyone's talking about is really the turning point of the game when Zaza Pachulia sticks his foot out. Kawhi Leonard lands on it, rolls his ankle, he's done for the game. And apparently, so were the Spurs. Well, Kawhi's out. We're done. Pack it up. Game 2. We'll get you then. Mind you, you're up by 20, I think, at this point. To anyone who wants to accuse Zaza Pachulia of sticking his foot out there on purpose, let's take a look at Zaza Pachulia's career. Zaza Pachulia, over the course of his career, has been known as a big, lanky, lumbering goof. He has been a big, lanky, lumbering goof to the extent where he ran over Kevin Durant, the second best player on his team, and put him on the bench for over a month. Last night was a case of Zaza Pachulia being that big, lanky, lumbering goof that he has been his entire career. He was contesting the shot. Big men don't stop on a dime like a point guard will. So his momentum carried him an extra shuffle step. He wasn't even looking at Kawhi Leonard. The second that ball went up, he's looking at the ball trying to get the rebound. He doesn't even look back at Kawhi after the shot goes up. That was a big, lanky, lumbering goof being a big, lanky, lumbering goof. Again, he put Durant on the shelf, his teammate on the shelf for over a month because he is a goof. That's all it was. There's no intent by Pachulia there. He's contesting a shot. His momentum took him forward. He doesn't look back at Kawhi Leonard. He's focused on the ball because he's what, 6'11"? I have to get the rebound. Or at least find out where the ball's going. There's no intent on Zaza Pachulia's part there. There's none. And for somebody who wants to try to find intent, listen, you must either be a Spurs fan or you are overanalyzing that situation. Pachulia has never been known as a dirty player. As I've said several times, he ran over his own teammate this year. Kevin Durant, only a top 5 player in the league. There is no intent on that part. But then you have the Golden State Warriors come right on back and win. For the Spurs, that series now is over. Kawhi Leonard is not playing in game two. He's getting an MRI tomorrow. Well, now it's past midnight, so today. He's getting an MRI today. Popovich has already said he's out for game two, which means he will be back in the lineup in San Antonio. The series will be over by then. If that series goes to 5, that's it. If it goes to 6, I will be stunned. That was San Antonio's best chance to take a game from Golden State, and they let it go. They let a 25-point lead go after their star player left with an injury. Not a good look for Golden State. Western Conference Final is already through one game. You had the Eastern Conference semifinal wrap up today as the Boston Celtics take the series against the Washington Wizards 115 to 105. Isaiah Thomas scores 29, had 12 assists. Kelly Olynyk scored a career playoff high, 26 points, 14 of those 26 coming in the fourth. Bradley Beal leading the Wizards, 38 points, including 24 in the second half. Otto Porter with 20. Wall had 18. The killer was Washington's 15 turnovers in the game, leading to 17 of Boston's points, which, if I do the maths properly, that is a Wizards win by 7 points turned into a loss by 10. Turnovers will kill you. First game 7 for the Wizards since 1979, and they turned the ball over 15 times, resulting in 17 points. That's the game. Beal puts up 38. And listen, if you want to say that this was Wall's game to shine, yeah, you're probably right. This was his time to shine. He scores 18. And again, if NBA.com was nice and would actually load up a freaking box score, I'd be able to tell you his other numbers. But no, I'm reading through the recap because thank you, NBA.com. You could say this was Wall's shining moment, at least as I go scouring the internet now for this box score. At least if he doesn't if he doesn't completely bottle this game up, then I'll say it doesn't hurt him, and that brings me right to the NBA one. If he doesn't completely, if he didn't completely bottle this game up, 18 points, my guess would be somewhere in the area of 7 to 8 assists, 5 or 6 rebounds. This isn't a box score. Um, that would be my guess. I'd say 18 points, 7 to 8 assists, maybe 5 rebounds if he's lucky. That's not bottling a game. Thank you. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but thank you, ESPN. You actually provided a box score for me. Um, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 18 games, 18 points. That's not an atrocious game. He shoots eight. He shoots 8 for 23. That's not good. But he didn't have an atrocious game. Turned the ball over 3 times, but then again, so did Morris. Gortat turned it over 4 times, so can't really blame the turnovers. Yeah, that's not a superstar game. That is not a star player, first round pick, early first round pick, leader of the face of the franchise esque game out of John Wall. But that's a solid game. You take that any night. Out of a point guard, double digit assists. That's what I look for in a point guard, double digit assists. So I'm not going to say it was a bad game out of John Wall. He didn't completely bottle it, but I can understand why you would want more. The only thing about that box score that I really don't like is 8 for 23, 1 for 8 from 3 point. That, and he only got to the line twice. He was 1 for 2 on free throws. That's the only thing I don't like about that box score is his field goal numbers and his 3 point numbers. That's it. 7 rebounds for a point guard. That's good. 11 assists. I'll take that. 18 points for me. It's not important if my point guard scores 40. But then again, I'm an old-fashioned guy. He had a decent game. I'm not going to sit there and bash John Wall, saying, "Oh, he's the reason why they lost." I'm not going to do that. Meanwhile, you see Isaiah Thomas go 9 for 21, so he didn't shoot much better. The thing that really put him over the top compared to Wall is he went 8 for 9 from the free throw line. 2 rebounds, 12 assists for 29 points. He has 9 more points because he had 7 more attempts from the free throw line. That's the way I see it. He has 7 more attempts from the free throw line. That, and he went 3 for 5 from 3. That's the only reason why Isaiah Thomas outscores John Wall in that game. If Wall gets to the line more times than he does, they had an even game. And Isaiah Thomas is going to be. And Isaiah Thomas has been the star of that Celtics team, even though Kelly Olynyk is going to get the star recognition tonight. 28 minutes, 10 for 14, 5 boards, 4 assists, 26 points. Again, 14 points in the fourth quarter. Kelly Olynyk is the reason why the Boston Celtics won tonight and won the honor of losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So congratulations to the Boston Celtics. I guess that's a good. I guess you guys winning is a good thing. Question mark, because again, like I said, you've won the right to lose to the Cavaliers. Just really quick before we end the program this evening, just a couple of quick tidbits of news. Yankee closer Aroldis Chapman felt pain and discomfort in his shoulder for weeks before telling the Yankees. He told reporters on Sunday, this is from SNY.TV. Chapman was placed on the 10-day disabled list on Sunday due to left rotator cuff inflammation, and could miss roughly a month. Chapman has struggled as of late, giving up 4 runs, 6 hits in his last 2 outings. He blew his first save of the season against the Cubs on May 7th, and surrendered 3 hits and 1 run in a 5-1 loss against the Astros on Friday. Gee, I wonder why. That rotator cuff inflammation kind of explains it. So there's your work with Aroldis. So there you go. There's your update on Aroldis Chapman, which Chapman played through it until he realized he was becoming a detriment to the team. Give him a little bit of credit for actually realizing that he was becoming a detriment to the team. That and the Jets have signed linebacker Javaris Jones and released linebacker Austin Calitro. The team announced Monday. Jones attended the Jets' rookie mini camp. He had 106 tackles last season for Division Three shorter university for Division Two. Shorter university. Calitro is signed with the Jets on May 5th as an undrafted free agent out of Villanova. So Calitro's time as a Jet lasted all of 10 days. Taking you out to Arizona, the Mets are in a little bit of trouble. Go figure. Bottom of the 8th inning right now, 2-2 count on Yasmani Tomas. Runners on first and second with nobody out. Good news is, though, in the 8th inning, the Mets actually got their first hit since the second. A double by Neil Walker. After that, Bruce promptly grounds out and TJ Rivera flies out. So that's the Met game. Right now, a 3-2 count to Yasmani Tomas. Oh my. Looking at the pitch track on MLB.com as I am, the third pitch of the at-bat was right down the middle and it was called a ball. Oh, technology. Just the other games in action right now. The Angels leading the White Sox in Anaheim 4-3. The Met game just ended. Looking to see what Yasmani Tomas hits a home run to center field. So it is now 4-1 Arizona. Thank you, Hansel Robles. The Mets are now on another 5-game losing streak. Top of the 7th in San Diego, the Padres leading the Brewers 4-3, but it might not be for long. 1 out, top of the 7th, Brewers threatening with runners on the corners, and Keon Broxton was at the plate. Now it's Manny Pena, runners on the corners. Another lead in jeopardy, top of the 7th inning, 2 outs. Seattle leading Oakland. Oakland at the plate with, actually they got out of it. So Seattle gets out of a bases loaded situation. They maintain their 4-3 lead. Top of the 7th inning in San Francisco, 1 out, runner on first for the Dodgers. It is a 6-1 lead for the San Francisco Giants. Matt Cain on the mound through 6 1/3. Cain on the mound through 6 1/3. Sorry. Five hits, one run, three walks, four strikeouts. Kike Hernandez at the plate right now. The eighth inning just continues to get worse for the Mets after Tomas hits the home run. Brandon Drury doubles to left field. So if you're a Met fan, you can start turning the TV off because we all know that game is over now. Again, two hits through eight innings for the Mets. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets. Um, Getting through scores for the weekend. We've given you the Yankees scores. The Mets will play Arizona tomorrow. Let me see if I can get you a pitching matchup. Pitching matchup for tomorrow between the Mets and the Diamondbacks. It'll be Tommy Malone versus Zach Greinke. I would say chalk that up in the loss column. The Yankees will open up a series in Kansas City tomorrow night against the Royals. An 8:15 start. CC Sabathia going up against Jason Hamill. Yesterday, New York City FC playing FC Dallas. That game ends in a 1-1 draw. The New York Red Bulls losing to the LA Galaxy at Red Bull Arena 3-1. New York City FC will play on Wednesday against Real Salt Lake, while the Red Bulls will wait until Friday before they take on Toronto FC. So thank you very much for joining us here this evening. We will preview a little bit more of the draft lottery tomorrow, including the end of this debacle of what has been a Met game. We'll look towards the Met game tomorrow, the Yankee game tomorrow, and any news that comes out over the course of the evening. So thank you very much for this late night special. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later today.